Creativity is vital for organizational success. Creativity is absolutely vital for the success of your career. Creativity, the coming up with something new and useful about how we do things at work, right? The idea is that doing the same thing tomorrow is not good enough. If you want to be truly great, we've got to improve. We must be creative and embrace innovation. This matters for your career. I'll tell you why. It used to be that if you were hardworking, if you had a great personality, you know what? If you became a subject matter expert in something, you were going to get a promotion or 2 or 3, but not anymore. No, it's competitive. In the world you face, you've got to do something extra, and that extra is creativity. And it's not always easy because, man, organizations say they love creativity, and they usually are full of it. They say they want new ideas, and then new ideas are treated so poorly when they show up at work, it's just unconscionable. They are criticized, they are beaten on. It is rough waters for anyone crazy enough to try and be creative, a change leader, making things happen. But you're going to do that, and I'd like to help you do that as best I can by sharing just a few ideas that we know as social scientists and as practitioners will help you fight the good fight in the name of creativity. Look, there will be ups and downs. I know this personally. I've tried things that worked out, and I got lots of applause. I've tried things that failed, and they were setbacks and miserable, and that's okay, because that's what fuels learning, and I want you to never forget that. That's what fuels learning and improvement ultimately. So let me help you. Number one, you've got to be smart enough, you've got to be brave enough to occasionally poke a few sacred cows. Now listen, I hope that phrase is offensive to no one, but it's very important. It's very practical. The idea is real simple. There are things we do at work all the time that don't work, that aren't the right way to do things, that aren't optimized. We've been doing it that way forever, so that's just what we do. Maybe the boss likes it. Maybe someone back in the day said, this is how you do it. It could be a behavior, a policy, a process. Who knows what it is, but we all know it doesn't work. It's like a dead body in the middle of the room we all ignore, and we just step over it every single day as if it's not there. Not you. Not anymore. I want to tell you probably my favorite example of someone willing and able to poke a sacred cow. It involves a man named Dick Fosbury. Now, in the 1960s, Dick was a high school student, and he was an athlete, and he was a high jumper. But he wasn't that good at it, because the common method of jumping over the bar in the high jump was to go with the bar face first. There were a couple different methods, actually, but they were face first, both of them. And he couldn't do it nearly as well as he would like, and he just ran at the bar one day, and he had been thinking about this, and he tried something new, and he kind of twisted when he got close to it, and he went over that thing backwards so that the bar was now seeing the back of his body. And everyone laughed. And his coach said, stop doing that. You look silly. But he liked it better than the traditional method. He was questioning the status quo, looking for a way to improve. And he kept doing it. And he tried it in the next competition where he competed. And they all made fun of him. And a local reporter said, it looks like this kid was having a mid-air seizure. Yeah. Another reporter said, I don't know what to call that. I'll call it the Fosbury flop. He continued doing it. His coach didn't like it. His teammates didn't like it. The next year, he became one of the best on the team. By the end of high school, he set every record at that school. Then he went to college, Oregon State, and he became a 2-time NCAA champion. And in 1968, he went to Mexico City for the Olympics, and he won the gold medal by clearing 7 feet 4 inches with the Fosbury flop. He revolutionized a sport, and with very few exceptions, everyone on the planet does it the way he showed us we should probably do it. Now, being creative at work is not always about trying something bold and new like he did. Sometimes, at a minimum, it's about making sure that you and the team, don't really indulge in lazy thinking, good enough decisions. That type of behavior is no good, and one of the best hedges against that is what is often referred to as the devil's advocate. If you've heard that term, you know what it means. It's saying how come and what if and did we consider, trying to really debate for the sake of making sure the team has a robust, thoughtful, maybe even creative decision when they're done. The history, for those who are interested, came from the church long ago, the Catholic Church, when they would debate who to make into a saint. They wouldn't just argue the pros of certain individuals up for discussion. They would actually assign someone and call them the devil's advocate to argue against that person so they could have a more complete, honest, full conversation. That idea is useful, and it's stayed with us all the way to today. I got to tell you, we know a devil's advocate presence, playing that role in a team, makes for better team performance. No doubt about it, but man, they're often treated poorly because they speak up and people go, oh no, this is going to take time, this is going to take energy, we were almost done. They don't love it. Kind of prove it to you a little bit. There's been some research on this topic over the years. Here's a version of some studies that are out there I think you'll enjoy. Imagine this. Put a bunch of people in a room over here, give them a task, say, come up with creative solutions. Put a bunch of people in a room over here, same task, come up with really creative solutions. These two teams are statistically the same. The only difference is that there is a confederate. That's a person that works for the researcher. No one knows that, just the researcher and that person. And I've given that person a role. I want you to play the devil's advocate. Say, how come, what if, did we consider, and all those good type of behaviors. They run a bunch of trials. We bring in experts to judge the quality coming out of these groups. Which group do you think the experts judge as most creative? That one, the one with the devil's advocate. And then the researcher walks back in and says, great stuff, wonderful, we're going to run some more trials. But first, I want all of you to consider one person in each group you will fire. Who do they fire? The devil's advocate every single time. Rerun the trials, bring in the experts. They now judge that the advantage is gone. They voluntarily got rid of their biggest advantage. That is the burden you face, and I'm here to tell you, it's worth it. You have to ask yourself, what kind of career do you want? You want to play it safe forever and say, I avoided catastrophe? Good for you. I think there's a better way. I want you to embrace creativity, and it starts with poking a few sacred cows. And then it starts again by playing and supporting people who fill the role of the devil's advocate. And there's one more piece I want to share. That is this. Your time, your energy at work. Very limited, which means you have to focus on what matters. And I'm here to tell you, having been inside of many, many organizations, we waste so much time and energy on things that matter less, I'll say, as opposed to things that are so interesting and important. If we get them right, they will move us forward. Instead, we care about more trivial things. I've got so many examples I could share, but I think one rises to the top of that list to try and make this point. I was hired to give a speech to a bunch of managers maybe 15 years ago, large medical manufacturer, that's all I'll say. And I was backstage, very excited, and there were executives speaking. I was about to go on. I had a handler that day. She was a human resources manager, wonderful lady. We were having a great conversation about what her team had been up to. And she said, well, you're a creativity, innovation, leadership pro. You're going to love this. We've been working on improving and streamlining a lot of our policies to try and really give people clarity about certain things at work. And I said, well, that's great. Tell me more. And she said, well, the last couple of days, actually, we've been working a lot on grooming and attire policies. And I thought, red flag, red flag. There's no way this is strategically important and going to make this firm awesome if they get it right. And she goes, well, actually, we spent most of yesterday simply debating what did or did not constitute appropriate female footwear in the office. Red flag, red flag. I said, do tell. She goes, well, we had an employee, a woman, who liked to wear basically sandals. And her boss thought that was inappropriate. They had a conversation. The boss thought the conversation was more difficult than he expected. And so he picked up the phone. He called human resources. Hey, guys, I think we need a policy so everybody everywhere in this massive firm will understand what policy is regarding appropriate footwear. That's a massive violation of a leadership rule I've been talking about for many years. You never craft a system-wide answer for a local little problem. You want to solve it local, and you want to move on. So she's telling me this, and I was thinking, what do I say? Red flags everywhere. And I was saved because it was time to go on stage, and so they grabbed me and they threw me out there, and I'm telling stories, and we're having fun, but I couldn't let go of that issue because it's so important to success at work. It's so important to creativity. It's so juicy. I just stopped in the middle of one of my sentences, and I said, wait a minute. Did you guys know that you have a strange fixation in this organization with what does or does not constitute acceptable female footwear? A lot of people started laughing. A few others looked confused. At least one person was, I think, maybe angry at me, the human resources manager in the back. But we ended up having a great conversation about the finite nature of our time and energy at work. Here's the truth. If you're going to give a creative effort to something, really give whatever creativity you've got to a task, that task should matter and be capable of helping you all move forward. That's what it means to focus on creativity. I think a lot of people approach this topic, and frankly, they get kind of detailed. I want to keep it simple. I want you to please answer these 3 questions. I want you to bravely answer these questions. Will you poke, occasionally, a few sacred cows? Will you play the role and support others when they play the role of the devil's advocate? And will you please remember to focus your limited time and energy on things that truly matter? Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll do those things, you and your team have a very good chance of being amazingly creative. Thank you.